She plummets off the catwalk. He kills the line with seconds to spare. By night, the board demands her silence as the factory whispers, "Not again." A bolt pings in the rafters, and everything hangs on Malik's next word. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. Heat and iron ruled the air the morning Scarlett Beaumont walked into Southside Fabrication, a century-old plant in a black neighborhood. The tabloids called her a boardroom siren. Thick, curvy, impossible to ignore even in a hard hat. But inside she was calculus. Margins, lifelines, what to save and what to sell. Her fitted navy sheath hugged a generous hourglass, and the hard hat could not soften the authority in her stride. "Stay on the painted path, Miss Beaumont," the safety marshal said. She nodded. Cameras trailed, the PR lead narrated. On the floor, brown and black hands fed presses, checked gauges, guided forklifts along taped lanes. Workers looked up as if she were weather that could ruin or rescue a crop. The tour reached the catwalk. Yellow paint, grated steel, a view of the stamping line. Below, the line thundered like weather, steady and merciless. Scarlett made herself walk like she owned gravity. "Mind the slick," someone called. She saw an oil-bright smear just as her heel kissed it. The world tipped. Her hip hit the rail, the chain popped, then nothing under her but air and a single thought. Not here. For a breath she pinwheeled, fingers clawing useless at air. She fell. A lower rail clipped her ribs. The conveyor grabbed her. Pain detonated at her shin so sharp the room went white. Voices flared. "Stop the line!" Her body tried to curl. Her leg answered with a grinding heat. One voice rose through the panic. "Panel 5! Main power now!" Tools clattered. Someone sprinted. The press shuddered and froze. A face filled her horizon. Close-cropped hair, a jaw like stubborn rock, eyes that did triage faster than fear. The patch on his navy shirt said Malik. "I'm Malik Brooks," he said, breathless but steady. "Maintenance lead. Don't look at your leg." He slid off his jacket, rolled it, tucked it under her head. A shop towel became a brace. Ratchet straps, bright orange, snugged around her calf with exact pressure. "You're with me." In through your nose. She couldn't find the rhythm. Her hands shook, her chest clenched. "Scarlett," he said, and breathed slowly until her lungs obeyed. "You're okay. Hold my hand." She did. His palm was warm, calloused, unafraid of blood. The factory gathered in a ring of urgency. A woman rehooked the safety chain. A floor boss radioed. Phones were shooed down. PR hovered at the edge. "You knew the panel," she whispered. "I know the bones of this place," he said. 15 years. Sirens threaded the street. Paramedics knelt with clipped competence. "Compound fracture," one said. "IV here." Malik didn't move away. "I've got her stabilized." "Good work," a medic said, on 3. They lifted. Scarlett's vision pixelated. Her hand crushed Malik's and he let it. The stretcher wheels jittered. Fluorescent lights strobed. PR surged with the stretcher. "Miss Beaumont, the press." "Back off," Malik said, and the PR man actually listened. At the ambulance doors, detail returned. Grit in her hair, the metallic ghost of the line, a humiliating shake in her thigh she couldn't stop. "You got family to call?" Malik asked softly. She tasted an old ache unrelated to bone. "No one who would pick up in a way that helps." He nodded like he understood. "I've got a daughter," he said, almost to himself. "Layla, 10, after-school pickup at 3. The medic glanced between them. One support person. PR lifted a manicured hand. "That'll be me." "No," Scarlett said. "Him." Malik looked like he might argue, then saw the set of her mouth and didn't. He climbed in. The doors slammed, sealing them into a world of oxygen hiss and fast hands. The ride swallowed time. Pain softened at the edges without losing its center. Scarlett realized she was still holding Malik's hand. He braced her knee when the rig swung through a corner, kept her leg from jostling. "You work the line?" she asked. "I keep it from eating people." A quick smile. "We're understaffed. We patch. We make deadline anyway." "I was supposed to decide if we shutter this plant and move production upstate," she said before filters could catch it. "Numbers say one thing, people say another. Numbers don't pack lunchboxes by themselves." The siren lowered. The medic checked the drip. "Single dad?" she asked. "Since Layla was 3. He didn't offer the story. "She makes pancakes shaped like planets on Sundays. They taste like burnt moons. I tell her they're perfect." Scarlett laughed, cracked but real. "I buy cereal named like yachts. It always goes stale." "Sounds expensive." "It is." The ambulance docked, doors burst open, the stretcher leapt forward. Malik kept pace, one hand on the rail, the other steady at her knee. In the bay, a surgeon introduced herself, a nurse clipped sensors, a resident said pin, and risk. The world divided into before and after. Before, catwalk, after the slow architecture of healing and the decisions she would owe. A transport orderly gestured at Malik. Family room. Scarlett's hand tightened. Stay, she said, and then to the room, he stays. The surgeon weighed hierarchy against humanity and nodded. 10 minutes. 10 minutes in a curtain-edged square where every beep sounded like a countdown. Malik slid a scuffed phone from his pocket. A photo bloomed. A brown-skinned girl with a missing front tooth, sun in her eyes, holding a crooked paper star. She got that in a school play, he said. She was night sky. I told her she stole the show. She told me not to be biased. Layla, Scarlett said, thank you for staying. He shrugged, shy now. Couldn't leave. I won't forget, she said, surprised by how true it felt, by how the promise seemed to anchor something inside her that had been sliding for years. A nurse leaned in. Time. They rolled toward double doors together. Malik's thumb pressed once against her knuckles, a small vow. The doors swung, and against every habit of control, she let someone else carry the next step, just this once. Anesthesia let go of Scarlett in ragged inches, like a tide that forgot how to ebb. The first thing she knew was a metronome of beeps and the soft scuff of rubber soles. The second was that the world had edges again, and one of them burned along her shin like a line of lightning frozen in glass. Scarlett? The voice was firm, kind. A face swam into focus. Dr. Kamala Shah, eyes steady behind fogged lenses. Surgery went well. We set your tibia with an intramedullary rod and screws. Minimal muscle damage. You're going to heal. 8 to 12 weeks, non-weight bearing, then physical therapy. Pain control will make the first 48 hours tolerable. Scarlett fought for her voice. Good. You were lucky, Dr. Shah added, and someone stabilized you well before we arrived, saved you from more damage. Malik. The thought arrived before she could stop it, followed by the feel memory of his hand. Calloused, certain, holding her in place. Where? He stepped out to pick up his daughter. Dr. Shah smiled, quietly conspiratorial, but he said he'd be back. Back. The word seated itself in her chest as if it owned a chair there. By afternoon, the room filled with the life she had built, lilies with obscene scent, a tower of gift baskets, an iPad candle-wicked with investor emails. PR left a draft statement on her tray, bland as hospital broth. Our CEO experienced a minor injury during a routine site visit. Safety is paramount. We're cooperating fully. Minor. Safety is paramount. The lines made her jaw tick. Rewrite it, she told Evan, the PR director. Lead with fault. Say we failed a protocol and no employee will step foot on that catwalk until we've rebuilt the system from scratch. No layoffs. Tell them I'll be on video tomorrow owning it. Evan blinked. Are you sure that's strategic? I'm sure it's true. When he left, the room exhaled. The TV muttered without sound. Her phone throbbed with notifications. Gossip sites, finance feeds, strangers litigating her existence in the comments. She fell because she's distracted by vanity. Who tours a plant in heels? Rich people think safety is PR. Then the knife she didn't expect. This is why we don't want them in our neighborhood. Shut it down and build condos. Scarlett shut the screen. The bouquet of takes was worse than lilies. A paper cup waited on the rolling table, the hospital logo smudged by a thumb. Along the rim, a number was inked in blocky blue pen. Malik, if you need anything. She didn't think. She texted. Thank you. It felt feeble against everything he had done. She added, I'm okay. Dr. Shah says the rod will make me part robot. The ellipsis appeared, disappeared, returned. Good. Robots heal fast, he wrote. You up for company? Yes. He arrived in a plain grey hoodie, shoulders carrying the day. A little girl ghosted him behind him, eyes huge above a cloth mask decorated with hand-drawn stars. She hesitated at the threshold until the nurse waved her in. Layla, he said gently, this is Miss Scarlett. Layla tugged the mask down, solemn. Daddy says you are brave. She held out a construction paper card shaped like a moon. Sharpie letters tottered across it. Feel better, Miss Scarlett. She'd missed a T, a detail that made Scarlett's throat knot. Tiny glued sequins freckled the crescent. Scarlett took it as if it were fragile glass. This is the most beautiful moon I've ever seen. We had cereal for dinner, Layla confided, like a brave admission. Lucky Charms, but without the marshmallows. Savage choice, Malik said. We ration the sugar. Scarlett smiled. The pain chewed at her, but some other muscle unclenched. I appreciate your anti-marshmallow policy. Layla pointed at the remote. Can I make the bed go up? The nurse nodded. The bed whirred obediently. Scarlett tried not to grimace. Malik sidled to the window, hands in his hoodie pocket, eyes reading the room like he read machines. They treating you okay? He asked softly. They keep trying to drown me in lilies and spin. She glanced at the card again. This is oxygen. He ducked his head, embarrassed, the way men do when the truth touches their neck. She wanted to help. I told her you once owned a robot leg company. I didn't. Scarlett said, amused despite herself. I know, he said. She likes upgrades. Layla set the bed back down 2 clicks and studied Scarlett's cast. Did it hurt like when I fell off my scooter? A little like that, Scarlett said, but louder and longer. Daddy says breathe slow. Layla demonstrated with exaggerated seriousness. In through your nose, out through your mouth. It works, Scarlett said. Your dad is good at keeping the world from getting worse. For the first time since the fall, Malik looked uncomfortable. We all do what we can. An orderly pushed a cart past. A nurse swapped the IV bag. Hospital time was a slow conveyor. Something clicked forward every few minutes. Malik checked his watch. Cheap metal, face scuffed. We should head out, he told Layla. Homework and bath. Layla nodded like a soldier. She hovered a small hand over Scarlett's fingers, not quite touching. I can leave you my moon, she said with grave extravagance. It scares bad dreams. Scarlett swallowed around a heat she didn't often allow. I'll guard it with my life. When they left, the room cooled. Evening leaned against the window. Text stacked up. CFO, legal, board. She called Noah, the COO, and laid out what she wanted. Lockout, tag-out, re-education. Independent safety audit not paid by Beaumont. Immediate hardware upgrade. Paid downtime for the line during retrofit. Clean report to OSHA. A public town hall with workers, not just managers. You're going to scare the street, Noah said. I don't work for the street, she said. I work for a company that either deserves to exist or doesn't. After the call, fatigue lay down beside her like a heavy animal. She dozed. Dreams braided the catwalk and Malik's palm and a paper moon spinning on a thread of light. She woke to her phone buzzing on the tray. A new text from an unknown number. Then his name slid into place. I can swing back after Layla's asleep if you need anything picked up. The vending machine food here tastes like damp paper. She typed without thinking. I could eat a damp paper grilled cheese if you smuggled it. 5 minutes later, a photo arrived. A greasy paper bag with a post-it that read, Contraband. She laughed, alone in a room that had forgotten how to make that noise. He came anyway, empty-handed. Apparently the vending machines shut down after 9, and stood by the window looking at the streetlights like they were a dashboard. You should know, he said after a beat. The accident is going to break the place open. We've been patching the catwalk for months. I turned in 3 work orders, 2 got deferred pending budget. That's on paper. Rage flared behind her ribs, scrubbed clean by shame. On me, she said. Whether I signed the deferment or built the machine that rewarded it, the line still runs through my name. He searched her face for deflection and didn't find it. You saying that out loud matters, he said, but the fix has to live on the floor. The folks who know how the guard chains actually hang, let them design the new ones. Do it with me, she said before caution could revise the sentence. Be the person who translates between the bones of the place and the budget. Safety lead, cross-functional, paid, authority for once. He laughed once, disbelieving. I've got second shift and mornings with Layla. I don't have a spare person to become. What if the job respects that? She asked. What if the schedule wraps around your life instead of chewing it? What if that becomes policy, not favour? He leaned on the radiator, thinking in slow circles. People like me don't usually get that if at the end. People like you keep my company from eating people, she said. I can live without a yacht cereal. I can't live with that. He stared at her, the air between them crowded by truths. You don't know me, he said gently. You know a version of me that held your hand on a bad day. Then let me learn the rest, she said, startling herself with how easy the sentence came. Say yes. We'll write it down. We'll tell the union. We'll tell the street. And we'll build the catwalks like they're carrying people we love. He didn't answer with words. He stepped closer, not touching, close enough that she could smell the clean of his hoodie and the metal ghost of his day. A nurse's cough in the doorway broke the moment. "Visiting hours technically ended at 9, she said, smiling in a way that suggested she'd grant a minute more. Malik nodded. "I'll think about it," he whispered, which sounded like almost yes. He lifted the paper moon and taped it to the IV pole where it could catch the draft and turn. It works better when it moves. After he left, Scarlett lay awake. The city hummed in low gears, the drug pump ticked. She watched the moon spin and understood the strange calm that had entered her. Not denial, not the numbness of money, but a plan that tied bone to blueprint. In the morning she would film the apology. In the afternoon she would call a safety engineer who didn't golf with her board, and before the week ended she would ask Malik again. Carefully, contract in hand, his life away from the line honoured on paper. The moon turned, catching the faintest light, and for once she didn't rehearse her angles. She rehearsed the words she would say to a room of people who had seen her fall and had kept working anyway. "I failed you. Help me build something that doesn't." By morning the lilies had wilted into perfumed apologies and the hospital window had gone from slate to bright. Scarlett asked the nurse for 10 minutes of privacy and told Evan to bring the smallest crew he could. No glam team, no lights, a single camera, a mic clipped to her gown, the IV pole and Layla's paper moon in the frame, whether Evan liked it or not. "Ready when you are," he said, already nervous. She took a breath that didn't reach the bottom of her lungs and started. "I'm Scarlett Beaumont. Yesterday, I fell off a catwalk in our Southside plant because our safety system failed and I signed budgets that let it fail. I'm sorry. Here's what we're doing." She read nothing. She listed specifics. An independent safety audit, chosen with union input, complete rebuild of elevated walkways with double rail, anti-slip grating, and properly rated chains. Immediate lockout-tagout retraining for every person on the floor paid, downtime covered at full wages during retrofits, all prior deferred maintenance requests pulled and addressed, a new safety integration lead role drawn from the floor with authority to stop the line. "I will sit with you in a town hall at the plant at 4 today, she finished. "No speeches, questions and plans, numbers and names. This is on me." Evan swallowed. "That might work." "It's not a strategy," she said. "It's a start." When he left to upload, she texted Malik. "Today at 4. I meant what I said. He wrote back after a minute. "I'll be there." Lines are already buzzing. Southside woke itself the way old machines do, with a rattle before purpose. Malik parked the Cavalier with the driver's window taped in place, walked Layla across the school's cracked asphalt and knelt to smooth the cowlick she'd weaponized against mornings. "You coming to the meeting?" she asked, adjusting her backpack straps like a climber. "Grown-up stuff. I'm almost grown," she grinned, 2 new teeth outracing each other. "I can do fractions." "That is grown-up stuff." He kissed her forehead. "I'll pick you up at 3. "Daddy," she said, suddenly serious, "are you scared to talk in front of people?" Terrified. "You can look at me in your head and pretend I'm clapping." He laughed. "Deal." On the way to the plant, he stopped for coffee and ran into Deshawn on the curb, a press operator with forearms like beams, mask under his chin, eyes narrowed by long weeks. "You here?" Deshawn asked. "Corporate says we're getting paid to sit for training. My cousin says that means shut down next month." "My cousin says the Bears are winning the Super Bowl," Malik said, and they both snorted. Then Deshawn's gaze softened. "You held her hand, right? The CEO?" "She held mine," Malik said, surprising himself with the truth inside that joke. "Careful," Deshawn said, not unkind. "Folks like that float. Folks like us are gravity." "Maybe we meet in the middle today," Malik said, and the 2 men shook on it like they could will it true. In the maintenance office, he skimmed his inbox. 3 open work orders marked deferred pending budget. 6 marked complete with photos attached, 1 newly stamped rush by a manager in an unusual fit of courage. He printed the deferred ones and slid them into a folder. Paper sometimes mattered when people pretended pixels didn't exist. At 3:07, he was outside the school with the engine cutting out, nervous about the time and the Cavalier's cough. Layla bounded in with a drawing from art class, stars again, but this time a ladder reaching toward them. "It's us," she said, and he didn't argue. By 4, the plant floor looked like church thrown in with a union hall. Metal chairs in rows, a corded mic on a dented stand, people in work boots, safety glasses pushed up like headbands, nurses from the clinic, a few small kids whose after-school plans had accepted detours. Cameras clustered in a corner until the union steward, Carmen Ortiz, pointed them toward a taped rectangle and said they'd stand there or leave. Scarlett rolled in on a rental wheelchair, cast-propped, hair in an unapologetic bun. Her dress, black, simple, anything but boardroom theatre, made no attempt to hide her curves or her new fragility. The room, rough in its kindness, made a little space the way neighbourhoods do for grief and mothers pushing strollers. Carmen took the mic first. "We're here because the floor caught our CEO," she said without sugar. "We're here because next time it could be us, or because yesterday it already was, only the cameras didn't show up." She nodded at Scarlett, then at the people. "Questions will be blunt, answers will be specific, no filibusters." Scarlett wheeled forward. "I'm sorry," she said into the tinny speaker, and the sound of a room not breathing dissolved. She laid out the plan she'd filmed that morning, then did something rarer. "I want Malik Brooks to stand with me as the floor's voice in redesigning this place. He can say stop and mean it. He can say that's not enough and I will not find someone else softer." She glanced toward him. "If he says yes." Malik hadn't planned on stage time. He had planned on finding a post near a column and listening. But Carmen was already motioning him forward to a small applause that made his neck heat. He took the mic like it might bite and saw Layla at the back, absolutely beaming. He kept it simple. "The catwalk fell short because steel, chains and paint don't care about press releases," he said. "We need heavier chain-rated for full load, not just weight. We need grating with grit, not cheap plates polished by boots. We need dual rail with mid-rail so a slip isn't a free fall. We need lockout points where human hands can reach them without gymnastics, and color coding you can read when alarms are screaming. We need maintenance tickets fixed on their actual due dates, not deferred pending budget until they turn into eulogies. And we need the right to hit stop without a supervisor asking about quota." He lifted the folder. "These are the tickets that died on a spreadsheet." Voices rose, questions, stories, anger layered with fatigue. Scarlett didn't try to answer every one. She deferred to Carmen, to a welder named Miss Ruth who had worked the line since it hummed in another century, to a young woman from QA who pointed out how the signage confused new hires. The room did not soften, but it turned toward itself, toward work. Halfway through, the lights hiccuped. A low alarm murmured from the coolant system. Hands went up without orders. The muscle memory of near misses moved bodies. Malik was already loping down the lane, reading gauges, reading smell. The pump on press 2 had been stuttering for a week, and he'd logged it. Now a hose coughed a thin silver stream onto the floor, teasing the press like a fuse. "Don't touch that panel," he shouted, and 3 people froze with guilty reflex. "Pull main at box C, and throw the absorbent damn." Deshawn tossed him the grey booms. They snaked around the gleam. A rookie ran to grab the spill kit. In 2 minutes, the puddle was a memory with edges. In 3, the alarm slowed to a sulk. Silence fell in its wake, the kind that carries a math lesson. Scarlett, white-knuckled on the armrests, turned to Noah at her shoulder. "We're down until every pump and hose is checked, replaced if it even thinks about cracking," she said. "Tell payroll it's paid time. Tell the street I said so." Noah leaned in, face like stone. "The board chair just texted. Emergency meeting at 7. They heard your video. They're unhappy." "Good," she said, and realized she meant it. "Maybe they'll finally show up to something dangerous." The crowd didn't cheer. It didn't have to. It watched what was done, not what was said, and found those matched for once. After the Q&A, after Carmen closed with action items and a list of names for the redesign committee, after people drifted to talk in small knots about hoses and hazard pay and how to watch your feet, Malik wheeled Scarlett toward the quiet of the old mezzanine at the back, where retired dyes slept under tarps. Dust motes turned in a high window like a private galaxy. "I'm asking again," she said, the chair brakes clicking. "Safety integration lead. Authority to stop the line. Flexible hours around school. Salary we both know is overdue. Training budget you control, not me. 2 rules. You don't owe me anything if I'm wrong in a meeting, and you can tell me no." He stared at the tarps, at his palms, at the paper moon he'd taped to her IV pole, now tucked into the wheelchair pouch, as if she planned to carry it everywhere. "I have to be at drop-off and pick-up most days," he said. "Then we build the job around those anchors," she answered. "I'm serious about that becoming policy. People do better work when the company fits their life." He exhaled long. "I don't want to be your shield," he said. "I won't stand in front of you when a decision is wrong." "I don't want a shield," she said. "I want to be right." A small laugh broke out of him. "That's new." "It's late," she said. "I'm learning fast." He looked at her then, really looked at the cast, the unvarnished face, the way she didn't hide her shape or her mistakes. "Okay," he said. "Yes." Relief rolled through her like tide. "Good, we'll write it down tonight so no one can sand it down in committee." They sat in the dusty half-light for a minute that was almost peace. Then a bolt somewhere in the rafters let go with a ping and rang down the steel, a little rain of rust following. Malik's head snapped up. He knew the language of failing metal. He knew how a plant told you its secrets if you stopped performing and listened. "We're not running anything tomorrow," he said. "Not with that." 72 hours, paid, she said, decision landing before fear could scold it. "We'll bring in lifts and look at every hanger, every pin, every weld on overhead structures." Her phone vibrated, frantic. "Noah again. They've got the votes. They want your resignation tonight." She looked at the screen until the words resolved into a single, simple shape. Then she passed the phone to Malik, like a person passing a weight they're not sure how to hold. "Looks like I'm going to need your voice sooner than we thought," she said, and the plant, old and stubborn and full of bones, seemed to hold its breath with them. The boardroom lived inside a glass box 40 floors above a river that looked expensive at night. Scarlett had spent half her adult life in that aquarium. Tonight she faced it from a hospital bed, IV ticking, the paper moon tilting on the pole like a small witness. Noah's iPad sat propped on a tray. The board flickered into view as 7 squares, their faces illuminated by the kind of lamps that came with assistance and non-disclosure agreements. "Scarlett," said Victor Lang, chair since forever, hair perfectly silver, teeth like contracts. "We're glad you're recovering." "Thank you," she said. Her leg ached like a bright idea that wouldn't quit. "You've seen the video." "We have," said Patrice Delaney, who counted ships like children and loved nothing but margins. "It has inflamed the situation." "It told the truth," Scarlett said. The situation was already on fire. Arjun Mehta leaned forward, voice careful. "Markets opened down 3% on us and slid after your promise of paid downtime. Legal is concerned about liability implied by your apology." Scarlett lifted her chin. "Legal can be concerned. We failed. We fix it." Victor steepled his fingers. "You will resign tonight. We'll thank you for your service, install an interim who can restore confidence, and proceed with safety upgrades at a pace that considers cash flow." "And the plant?" she asked. "We'll evaluate capacity utilization once the news cycle." "No," she said, but softly, as if she were telling herself as much as them. "You'll keep Southside open. You'll fund a safety rebuild designed by the people who know where the catwalk rusts and which pump coughs before it dies. You'll create a role with stop-the-line authority that reports outside operations, and you'll put it in writing." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Scarlett? No." The nurse at the door glanced over, surprised by the heat in that one word. Scarlett dialed herself back one notch. "This isn't a tantrum. It's a term sheet. You want my resignation? It buys you my silence and the goodwill left in my name. In exchange, you guarantee those specifics without sanded language. You keep every hourly employee whole during the retrofit. You commit to a childcare stipend for shift workers. You put 1 elected floor rep on the safety committee with full vote, not a sticker on a brochure." The squares looked at everything but her. Silence hummed like fluorescent lights. Patrice exhaled through her nose. "You're asking us to put labor at the table with teeth. I'm asking you to put survival ahead of convenience," she said. "I am done pretending the street is oxygen." Victor's gaze sharpened. "You are emotional." "Yes," she said, "and I am correct." Something in the room shifted because she didn't run from that word. Malik, sitting in the chair by the window out of frame, watched her with the stillness of a man steadying a ladder. She could feel it even without turning. Arjun broke the stalemate. "We could commit to a third-party audit and Consider a floor representative. Full vote, she cut in. Stop pretending advisory is a seat. Scarlett, Victor said, patience thinning, you are not in a position. To negotiate? She smiled. The sharp one that had closed deals at 3 a.m, when men like Victor thought exhaustion meant leverage. I am precisely in a position to negotiate. Because if you fire me tonight and walk out with a softer statement, I will hold my press conference from this bed and tell the world you chose the stock price over the bodies that make your stock worth anything at all. I will read out loud the list of deferred maintenance tickets with their dates and the names attached, mine included. I will say my name with yours. And I will spend every dollar you ever bragged I had to keep Southside open without you. The IV pump clicked as if punctuating each sentence. Noah didn't breathe. The board did the math their MBAs taught them, but this equation had variables they didn't like. A public with a camera, a union with backbone, a woman who had used her apology like a crowbar and found leverage. Victor recovered first, the way men who have never had to leave a room in disgrace recover. You're grandstanding. She let that pass. Put it in writing, Victor. Then I'll resign on your timeline, not tonight, and I'll say you did the right thing when the facts changed. Arjun's eyes softened, almost admiration. Give us 10 minutes. The screen went to colours muted by glass. Scarlett let her head fall back. The paper moon oscillated, a small tide. You didn't warn me you could throw knives like that, Malik said quietly. I spent a decade learning how men like that think, she said. Turns out the only thing that frightens them is the mirror. He chuckled under his breath. You're bleeding some. She glanced down. The cast's edge had abraded skin. She hated that her body gave away the cost. He stood and adjusted the blanket with the kind of care people sometimes reserved for expensive equipment, as if not bruising a thing made it work longer. His knuckles brushed her knee. The contact was absurdly intimate, like a secret. The board returned. Victor's voice was lacquer over wood starting to split. We will accept your terms with clarifications. Independent audit chosen by a joint committee, including union. Immediate rebuild with double rail and anti-slip grating. Stop-line authority vested in a new safety integration lead reporting to the audit committee, not operations. Paid downtime during retrofit up to 72 hours, extensions with audit chair approval, and an employee representative with full vote on the safety committee. Childcare stipends, pilot program at Southside. And written, she asked. In writing, Patrice said, flinty but not cruel. Then I'll resign tomorrow at noon, she said. The words tasted like metal and relief. I'll do it at the plant. One condition, I get to name the interim for 60 days. Victor bristled. That is not. It reassures the people who make the thing you sell, she said. Noah can run finances and supply. Carmen Ortiz co-chairs the safety committee with the audit chair, and Malik Brooks serves as safety integration lead. You'll enjoy your soft hands knowing the hard ones are in charge of the dangerous parts. Arjun actually smiled. You are burning down the part of the house that should have gone years ago. Victor's jaw worked. Fine, 60 days. Then we choose. Deal, she said, and ended the call before anyone could walk it back in more words than they had backbone. The room got bigger without their faces in it. She realized she was shaking. Adrenaline left a hollow behind it. Malik reached, hesitated, then took her hand because pretending they were not two human beings in a room would have been the lie too far. Hey, he said, voice warm as steam. You did that. I did that, she said, and for one unguarded moment let the truth inside her chest stand naked. She was tired of rooms where she had to trade pieces of herself to keep air in the walls. She wanted a life that recognized the shape she actually was, a woman with curves that had been called too much of everything and were today exactly enough. Her phone chimed. A news alert. CEO of Beaumont Dynamics to step down after factory injury. Pledges sweeping safety reforms. Plant to remain open. Another. Union praises joint plan. First honest thing we've heard in a decade, says veteran welder. Another. Investors uneasy, stock volatile. Noah texted an image, the draft agreement. Real words, not the kind that evaporate. She signed electronically with a hand that steadied as the pen moved. Layla's going to want popcorn for the revolution, Malik said, the smile reaching his eyes now. Popcorn is a requirement, she said. Do you? The question caught. She pushed past the instinct to make it smaller. "Do you have time to stop by tonight?" "Not because I need help with anything." She glanced at the paper moon. "Because I'd like to be near something true for an hour." His mouth softened. "I can bring planet pancakes." "It's night," she said. "Night has the best planets." He left to collect Layla, and the quiet that followed wasn't empty. It held the sound of her breath, the unglamorous rhythm of pain that meant she was still here, the small insistence of being alive in a body that had nearly been carried by a machine. They came back with a plastic container, warm through the lid. Layla rushed to the bed like she was storming a castle. "We made Saturn," she announced, "and the rings are—" She rifled through the bag triumphantly. "Pretzels. Daddy says I should patent it." Scarlett laughed, and the sound surprised her. They ate contraband planets and watched a dumb game show with the sound off and the captions on, and it felt like the part of a storm where the air goes still, not because danger has passed, but because it's deciding whether to turn. "Are you going to have a new job?" Layla asked, swinging her feet. "I am," Malik said, glancing at Scarlett. "It might mean I talk in front of people and tell bosses no." Layla nodded as if she'd expected this assignment for him all along. "Good," she said. "You do that when I want too much sugar." Scarlett tipped her head back and let the ceiling blur until it could have been a sky. "I'm going to have a new job too," she said. "It pays less in money and more in being able to look at myself." Layla considered this as she built a tiny ringed planet from pretzels and napkins. Sounds fair. When they left, the room felt different because it had contained something living that wasn't lilies or fear. Scarlett sent the resignation statement to Evan with lines she had fought to keep. "I am stepping down not to escape accountability, but to extend it where it belongs, including to me." Then she turned off the overhead light and watched the paper moon catch the air from the vent and turn. Her phone buzzed one last time. Noah again. "Board wants to push your noon announcement earlier to pre-market." Pressure rising. She typed back, not moving. Then after a beat, she added, "Be at the plant with Carmen at 11. We stand together." A late siren stitched through the city, quick and far away. A loose bolt pinged in her memory, the whispered language of failing metal. In the morning, there would be cameras and opinions and the dangerous work of telling the truth twice. Tonight, there was the quiet of a room stripped of performance and one stubborn promise, that she would not let the world return to what it was, simply because that was easier to sell. The plant smelled like rain and cut metal at noon, a clean storm brewing over Southside. Someone had dragged a shipping pallet onto the floor and covered it with a sheet of plywood for a stage. Carmen Ortiz stood to one side with a clipboard like a sword. Noah arranged a stack of papers with the caution of a man handling live wire. Workers gathered, safety glasses propped on foreheads, lunch pails dangling from hands more used to talk than applause. News cameras were penned behind yellow tape. The catwalk above them, the one that had failed Scarlett, was roped off with a banner that read, "Rebuild in Progress." The banner fluttered like it had a heartbeat. Scarlett rolled in through the wide bay door, a simple black dress and a bright hospital cast, hair pulled back. She didn't try to hide anything, not the bruising at her temple, not the curve of her hips, not the way the chair made her small and stubborn. Malik walked beside her in a new hard hat that said safety lead in block letters. Layla, hand in his, scanned the room like it was a galaxy. When she saw Scarlett, she lifted her free hand and waved so hard it might have left orbit. Carmen lifted the mic. "All right," she said, voice carrying. "You know why we're here. You saw the apology. Today we see the paper." Noah held up the agreement. "Independent audit chosen by a joint committee including union," he read, tone neutral as a scale. "Full rebuild of elevated structures with double rail and anti-slip grating. Stop-line authority vested in safety integration lead reporting to the audit committee. Paid downtime during retrofits. Childcare stipends, pilot at Southside. Employee rep with full vote on the safety committee." Cameras clicked. Workers didn't. They watched. Carmen turned to Scarlett. "You want to say it?" Scarlett took the mic from her seated height, and somehow the room came down to meet her. "I am stepping down as CEO at noon," she said. "Not to protect myself from consequence, but to extend it to the places I've been, too often, too far from. Noah will keep supply and finance steady. Carmen will co-chair safety with the audit chair. Malik has authority to stop a line. And the committee that redesigns this place has more than a sticker. It has a vote. She let the words land. The street will do what it does. We will do what is right. Victor Lang was not present. The board sent a lawyer in a blue suit who looked like a placeholder for a machine that printed letters threatening breach. He stepped forward with a pen like a scalpel. "Miss Beaumont, if you'll sign." Scarlett signed. Then she set the pen down with a deliberate click, reached into the wheelchair pouch and pulled out Layla's paper moon. She taped it to the corner of the banner that would oversee the rebuild. "For luck," she said, "and for memory." A murmur moved through the crowd, approval, surprise, the soft sound people make when something unexpectedly right happens in public. Carmen took the mic again, but before she could speak, a pump somewhere coughed and the low air alarm grumbled the room into attention. Heads tilted. Malik was already moving, reading the plant by sound. He caught the eye of the coolant tech and pointed. "Box C," he said. "Throw the main. Spill kit now." The lawyer in blue reached for the emergency stop closest to his hand, like a tourist touching art. Malik's voice went flat as a level. "Don't touch that panel." The man froze, a front curdling into a smile that wanted witnesses. "I'm trying to help." "You're trying to trip a relay that backfeeds when the pump is half primed," Malik said, already wading into it with absorbent booms. "You'll arc a contactor and buy us a fire." He made a small rotating motion with his wrist, and 2 line leads he'd trained the night before moved with him, unspooling grey socks like they were laying down a shoreline. In 90 seconds the alarm sighed. In 2 minutes the plant was thinking again. Scarlett felt something inside her click into alignment that had nothing to do with screws in bone. Authority transferred, knowledge honoured. She looked at Noah and saw the same relief, the same terror. They were in it now, and the it was honest. Carmen raised the clipboard like a bell. "First meeting of the redesign committee at 2, she said. "We'll start with weld inspections and hanger replacements. Bring the tickets you've been told to live with. We're not living with them." Scarlett reached for the mic one last time. "I'll be in the mezzanine out of the way if anyone wants to say the thing that never gets said, because the person who needed to hear it wasn't here." She put the mic down. "And then I'm going to take my last check as CEO and fund a safety scholarship for any kid in this neighborhood who wants to learn how to keep people from getting hurt for a living." The room didn't cheer. It didn't have to. It shifted toward the work like a body moving toward a wound with clean hands. After, a quiet settled in the small office off the floor where managers usually wrote emails about margins. Malik leaned against a file cabinet that had started life in the Carter administration. Scarlett settled her chair where she could see the door and the window and his face without moving her head. Layla sat cross-legged on the desk chair, peeling an orange with the intense focus of a surgeon. "You sure about the stipend?" Malik asked, voice low. "You know they'll try to make it a PR thing and then starve it after you're gone." "I wrote it so they can't," she said, tapping the agreement. "Pilot now, path to policy if absenteeism falls and retention rises. It will. They'll like the numbers they pretended to like all along. You could keep being the person who forces that," he said. It wasn't a question so much as a map she could turn from or toward. "I could," she said. "Or I could stop spending every hour buying oxygen for a house that thinks my body is a flaw it must correct. I don't fit the chairs up there. Today I noticed I don't want to." He watched her, thumb running the edge of a maintenance tag he'd peeled from a stack, the paper cutting a thin bright line in his skin without complaint. "I don't know how to be near someone who used to own this place and now chooses to chair a folding table at a union meeting," he said finally. "But I know I want to learn." Layla looked up, juice on her lip. "You can come to pancakes," she offered solemnly. "People who come to pancakes don't lie." Scarlett laughed, the sound ragged and pure. "Deal." Noah stuck his head in, face flushed with logistics. "Press wants you," he told Scarlett. "And OSHA, and Miss Ruth says the hangar that pinged yesterday? It's not the hangar, it's the bracket. We're bringing in a lift." "Listen to Miss Ruth like she's oxygen," Scarlett said. "Press can wait 5. OSHA can have my number. Tell them we'll sign everything that needs signing and stop everything that needs stopping." When Noah left, Malik shifted, a tide turning in inches. "I want to say something without walking it back," he said. "Say it," she said. "I didn't just hold your hand because you were hurt," he said. "I held it because you felt like someone I'd been ready to meet for a long time, and I didn't know until that second that you existed. I am a man who makes lists and fixes pumps and packs lunches and tries not to need more than what fits in a Cavalier with a taped-up window. Needing more scares me." Scarlett's first instinct was to make a joke, to pull the heat into something manageable. She didn't. "I am a woman who has been told I am more than rooms can hold," she said. "I kept shrinking to fit. It made me very rich and very lonely. Wanting, still wanting, feels like crossing a street against the sign." They sat in the honest risk of it. No violins, no soft filter. A clipboard clacked in the hallway. Someone laughed like relief around the corner. Layla finished her orange and carefully stacked the peels into a tiny spiral. "Daddy," she said, as if delivering a verdict, "we should invite her to the science fair." Malik smiled in surrender to the authority that mattered. "We should." The press conference was noisy. Scarlett said the same simple sentences she'd said on the floor. She turned questions into clarity, refused to sell suffering as content. When a reporter asked if she was leaving because she'd failed, she said yes, and then added, "And because this company will do better work if more people like Malik and Carmen and Miss Ruth are in charge of what can kill us." A woman from Channel 7 teared up, then pretended she hadn't. By late afternoon, the lift had nosed under the mezzanine. Miss Ruth rapped at brackets with a small hammer and nodded grimly at what the sound said. Malik called out measurements. A kid from QA double-checked the tags. Carmen logged decisions like a captain. Scarlett watched and didn't reach for the controls. Letting go felt less like falling and more like choosing the ground. At dusk, the rain finally came, cool and sudden. The plant swallowed it in a hush, grateful. Malik walked Scarlett to the bay door. Layla hopped puddles in brand-new plastic booties she'd found in a first-aid kit, shrieking at each splash. "Where do you go when you don't go back to floors like this?" he asked softly, half-smile thin as a wire. "To a life that doesn't pay me for what I can endure," she said. "I thought I might start with a nap. Then a town hall with the other plants to share what you build here. Then," she looked at Layla, at the paper moon taped above the work like a blessing. "A science fair." He reached for her hand like a man reaching for a tool he had learned was sharp but necessary. Their fingers fit with the awkwardness of new truth. No promises yet, just a grip. The rain eased. The banner shifted and held. Inside, the pump-on press 2 hummed clean as if learning a new song. Outside, a siren wailed for someone else's emergency. The world still wild and in need of people who would stop what could break it. "Hungry?" he asked. "Starving," she said. "Planet pancakes," Layla called, already inventing a constellation with her fingertips. "Night has the best ones," Scarlett said, and the three of them stepped into the wet afternoon like it might actually keep its promise.